Mighty Companions, Anna Kujawa here, and we are doing A Course in Miracles, the complete and annotated edition. So, new edition of A Course in Miracles, but the more original edition of A Course in Miracles, and that's what we are doing in this Wednesday session. So every Wednesday I do A Course in Miracles, the complete and annotated edition, which is the latest edition, but also the most original edition of A Course in Miracles. And the reason that I'm teaching this book is because there's so much original and new to us material in this edition that I wanted to teach it so I could learn it. And so that's why I'm doing this particular edition of A Course in Miracles. So welcome to Myrna and Ashley who are watching, and so happy that you guys are joining your precious, powerful, beautiful energy to this healing circle that we do co-create whenever we come together, however we come together, whether it's digitally or over the internet or however we do it. We do co-create a healing circle that heals us and the planet through us. So good job of using your time and your energy for the purpose of planetary healing. Okay, so good job. You know, there's a lot of other ways you could be using your time and energy today, and you are using it to save the world. So good job on you. So we are in chapter 4, section 2. The section is called The Devoted Teacher. And we are starting on paragraph 5 today. So, just so you know, so chapter 4, section 2, The Devoted Teacher. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a update or a synopsis of the preceding paragraphs, and then we will go on starting with paragraph 5. So this section is talking about teaching and change. And this section in the first 4 paragraphs talks about our fear of teaching. And it was saying that the only way, according to A Course in Miracles, that you ever learn anything is to teach it. That's something different and unique that A Course in Miracles teaches us. If you want to learn something, you're going to have to give it. You're going to have to teach it. Just like the Course in Miracles says, if you want to have something, you're going to have to give it. And so Course in Miracles says the same thing. If you want to learn something, you're going to have to teach it. And what does teaching mean? It means demonstrating. It means sharing. And so it's saying that, you know, the devoted teacher is somebody who is like, I really want to learn. I really want to learn. And so I so want to learn that I will teach it. I will demonstrate it. I will share it. Not because I got it, not because I know it, not because I've mastered it, but because I want to learn it. So A Course in Miracles is saying if you want to learn something, you're going to have to teach it. Just like A Course in Miracles is saying if you want to have something, you're going to have to give it. That is the learning curriculum A Course in Miracles presents. So it's saying that the devoted teacher is one who is like, I really want to learn this material. I really want to learn these ideas. So okay, I will share it in whatever way makes me happiest. Now, A Course in Miracles is saying though that we are afraid to teach. You're like, we're afraid to share. We're afraid to share the ideas that we ourselves want to learn. And A Course in Miracles says that the reason we're afraid to share the ideas that we want to learn is because A Course in Miracles says that when you teach something, you learn something. But we're afraid to learn. We're afraid to learn. Why are we afraid to learn something new? Because learning something new means change. And A Course in Miracles says we're afraid of change. And so we say, Course in Miracles is like, you got to teach it if you want to learn it. Okay, but we're afraid to learn something new because we're afraid of the change that comes about. And the Course in Miracles has a lot to say about, in this section, why we are afraid of change. So we're afraid to learn something new because we're afraid of change. even though we don't like what's going on, and we're like, oh, there's got to be a better way. Oh, I can't take this anymore. There's got to be a better way. But the Course in Miracles says, but we're afraid to change. Why? We're afraid of change. Why am I afraid of change even though I can't take this anymore? The reason we're afraid of change is because our first experience of change was from the heaven and ecstasy of oneness to this, to the lack, deprivation, and death of separation. Okay? So, first of all, I just want to say hello to my live studio audience. Live studio audience. All right. So I just want you to know I'm not alone here. Never have been. Never will be. But we got all the genders, the different species. We got everyone we could need in our live studio audience.
Dog,
and then the dog goes, I'm out of here. Come on.
This is too much.
Yeah, she's like, whatever. Don't talk about me. So we're talking about the devoted teacher, and we're talking about the devoted teacher is the person who's like, okay, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than what I've been experiencing. And then, of course, Miracles comes along and goes, yeah, there is a better way. If you will teach a better way, if you will demonstrate a better way, if you'll share some better ideas, then you will experience a better way, a better life, some better ideas. But A Course in Miracles is saying that we are afraid to teach because we are afraid of change. As you teach new ideas, you will change. But A Course in Miracles says we're afraid of change. Now, so it's talking about our fear of change. And so it's talking about our fear of change and our fear of teaching. And our fear of teaching and our fear of change are right there the same. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in this section so that we can heal our fear of change. Okay, your fear of sharing the ideas that you want to learn is your fear of change. Now, so we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to hear A Course in Miracles talk about how to heal, how to correct that fear of change. Why? So that you can experience a change. Yay! A change for the better. Okay? So, here's what it says here. It says, your fear of teaching. We're in paragraph 5, so we're chapter 4, section 2, the devoted teacher. And in paragraph 5, your fear of teaching, which means demonstrating, is nothing but an example of your own separation, intense separation anxiety. What? I have separation anxiety? Yeah, you have intense separation anxiety, not just regular separation anxiety. Did you know that you have intense separation anxiety? All right. So, A Course in Miracles is saying that... remember, it was saying that we have intense separation anxiety. What does that mean? Of Course in Miracles says your first experience of change was an experience of separation. Your first experience of change was the experience of separation. So if you're wondering why you have some learning blocks, some defenses against learning A Course in Miracles, it's because you have a fear of change. You know, there's a part of you that knows that if you learn A Course in Miracles, that there's going to be some change going down.
Yep.
Okay? And so some part of us knows that. And some part of us is like, oh, change. Oh, my God, change. My first change was from the heaven, actually, of oneness, to having a body where I died and I suffered and seem to lose what I love. So I'm afraid of change. Why? Because I have intense separation anxiety. I am afraid of the separation. I'm afraid of separation. So it says that we're afraid to learn A Course in Miracles because we are afraid of the change, which means the separation that we've come to associate with learning and with change. So it goes like this. You learn something new, you're going to change. But what if you're afraid of change? Then you're not going to learn. And here we are, a bunch of folks who are like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, this hurts. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. And they're like, okay, here's some new ideas by which you can change your mind. You're like, oh, no, 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 no. No, I just want to complain.
I don't want to change.
I don't want to change. I just want to complain. Right?
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. And so, of course, in Miracles in this section is saying, listen, learning means change. And we're afraid of change. So what does that mean about us and learning? That means every time there comes an opportunity to learn something new, a new way of interpreting things, a new way of responding, a new way of looking at things, we resist, we sabotage. So here comes A Course in Miracles, and we're like, oh, well, I don't have time for that. I don't understand A Course in Miracles. It's so complex. It's there's too many words. It's too long. I don't understand it. It's just, I don't know. It's too wordy. It's too wordy. Oh, and it's negative. It's so negative. That's our fear of change. That's our fear of change. We know that if we learn, we're going to change, but we're afraid of change. So when learning comes into our experience, a new way of thinking, a new way of responding, a new way of interpreting, we resist, we sabotage. And it says and then, it says your fear of learning is your fear of teaching. You're afraid to learn something new, same thing as saying you're afraid of teaching, okay? So it's saying that you have a fear of teaching, which means you have a fear of learning. And it says, and your fear of teaching and learning is nothing but an example of your own intense separation anxiety, okay? I'm afraid of the separation that I experienced when I first changed, my first experience of change. So I don't want to learn, so I don't want to teach, because I'm afraid of the separation. I have intense separation anxiety. And it says, you have handled your separation anxiety, your fear of change. You have handled your fear of change with what? Oh, the usual series of mixed defenses in the combined pattern of attack on truth and defensive error which characterizes all your ego thinking.
Wow, do that again.
Oh, I know. That's how I've handled my fear of change.
Huh?
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, totally. Yeah, okay. Oh, just the usual series of defenses, What kind of defenses? It's just the mixed defenses, which is I attack the truth comes along, and I'm like, oh, that can't be true. Oh, that doesn't apply to this. Oh, I don't know what that's saying. Oh, I don't have time for that. A combination of your attack on truth and what else? Your defensive error. That's not my mistake. I'm not making a mistake. Oh, they are wrong. And that's what characterizes all of your ego thinking. Okay?
Wow.
All of your ego thinking is a defense of change and a defense of learning. We got so many defenses against change and learning. So many defenses. Just think about all the defenses you have experienced to learning A Course in Miracles. Think about it. And just think about all the defenses against learning that you have experienced with the people around you to A Course in Miracles.
That's more like it with me.
Yeah.
I don't really.
Right.
I love it.
Yes.
Other people
Right.
are like, what?
They're like, oh, it's too complex, it's too long, it's too wordy, I don't like the male gender, I don't like the Judeo-Christian terminology, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we have handled our fear of change with a lot of defenses, right? We all say, oh, I don't like the way it is. Oh, I wish it were different. Oh, I wish it was different. But then we're like, here comes a new way of thinking. Here comes a new way of thinking that would produce a change. And what do? Do we go, oh, wonderful, a new way of thinking, that's awesome. A new way of thinking will produce something different. Is that what we do? We go, no, we go, oh, that's too wordy. I don't like the Judeo-Christian interpretation. I don't like the masculine interpretation. There's too many words. It's too long, and I don't really have time for that. Okay, so we are afraid of change. But it's like we say we want a better way, we want a different life. But then when it comes around, when the ideas come around that will enable us to have a better way, a better life, we respond with a mixed, the usual series of mixed defenses against change. So we all have that friend, and we've been it too. That friend who's like complaining, and bitching and moaning, moaning, bitching, complaining, and we're like, oh well, here's a new way of interpreting it that you could interpret, and maybe you could have a different experience. And what do they say? Do they go, oh, thank you so much. That's a great new interpretation because I'm so excited for change. What do they say? They go, that doesn't apply. That doesn't apply, right? They go, oh, that won't work for me. Or they go, oh, I've tried that. I love that one. Oh, I've tried that. And that doesn't work. So in other words, what you come across as a teacher of a new and better way is you come across people's deep, deep unconscious fear of change. So they may be bitterly complaining, and you offer them a better way. Or of course, in Miracles offers them a better way, and what do they do? Oh, no. Defense. Deep. And you realize what A Course in Miracles is teaching you is it's not that you're a bad teacher. It's that they are deeply, unconsciously afraid of change. Okay, so don't take it personal. And don't take it personal when people are complaining about their lives and you're like, oh, there's a better way. And they go, I can't do that. Oh, I tried that. Or that doesn't apply to me. Okay, it is not you. You're not a bad teacher. It is their fear of change. Of Course in Miracles says we're afraid of learning because we're afraid of change. Because as you learn new ideas, you will change. But if you're afraid of change, you ain't gonna learn. You'll be like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. You'll have defenses against learning. Okay? So, all right. So then it says this. It says, you insist that if you allow no change to enter into your thinking or your ego, that your spirit will find peace. That's our position. And it says, but this profound confusion is possible only if you maintain that the same thought system can stand on two foundations. So what does that mean? So here's what we're doing. Okay, here's our belief that is not allowing for learning and change for the better to enter our lives. We are going like this. Well, if I don't allow any change to enter into the way I am seeing things, to the way I see things, to the way I perceive it, I'll find that my spirit will find peace. He says, you're insisting on that. In other words, we're defending against hearing new ideas, new interpretations, new ways of interpreting, learning new belief systems. Because we have a belief that if I just allow no change to enter into the way I see things.
Closed off without a teachable spirit.
Exactly. If I'm just like, I'm right, that's it, and if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. Okay? He said, you're insisting that if you allow no change to enter into your ego, you'll find peace. And the Course in Miracles is saying, no, that's you believing that you can keep your ego the same and have peace. Which is the same as saying that you believe that two foundations, that two thought systems, that the same thought system can stand on two foundations. In other words, I keep everything the same as the way I think and have total peace. No, you can't, says A Course in Miracles. So, in other words, in A Course in Miracles, if you want to have something new and different, you are going to have to allow for change, which means learning. Learning means change. Learning means change. And it's reminding us that just because your first experience of change was from ecstasy of oneness to the hell of separation, that doesn't mean that now change cannot be good for you and for the better. As a matter of fact, it is. Yes.
What I can't think of it, but what's that old saying about the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing, expecting different results.
It's a quote from Einstein, where Einstein says the real definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing, but hoping for different results.
Right.
And that's exactly what it's talking about here, is that we defend our thought system. You know, somebody says, oh, well, there's another way of interpreting it. There's a better way. And instead of going, awesome, what's that? We're like, no, the way I'm doing it is fine. The way I see it is right. You know, we are still thinking that we can keep doing things the way we've always done it and keep interpreting things the way we've interpreted, thinking about it, and just have peace. And the Course in Miracles is like, no, you can't.
Yeah. We've not been having peace.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing everything the same way.
Exactly. You can't keep thinking the same ways and interpreting life the same way and have peace.
Good luck at what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what A Course in Miracles is trying to teach. It's like, look, you know, you could, listen, in this scenario, you having a better life, you having a peaceful, happy, fulfilling, healthy, abundant, rich, loving life is going to come from you learning a new way of thinking, a more accurate and true interpretation of yourself, a more loving interpretation of yourself and the universe.
And if you already have that, you wouldn't want to change.
Exactly. And if you already had that, then there'd be no need for change.
Yeah.
But because you don't know the loving, brilliant, limitless truth about yourself, you need a change. You need a change of mind. You need a change of interpretation. But if you're fighting that, then how are you going to have a better life? How are you going to have more peace and fulfillment? You're not, you know. So A Course in Miracles is like, listen, you could have heaven right now. You could have the real world, total abundance and joy and peace. But that comes from learning, which means that comes from changing your mind. Okay, so do you want that? Okay, you're willing to change your mind?
Yes.
Okay, then you need to look at your fear of change. And this is talking about why we're afraid to change our mind. Okay, great. So I'm willing to face my fear of changing my mind. How about you?
I am.
Okay, me too. So I'm afraid to change. Afraid to change because I'm in the habit of fearing change.
Yeah.
Because my first experience of change wasn't so great.
It's a habit.
Okay, it's just a habit.
Deeply ingrained.
That's just a deeply old, ingrained habit. And it's saying, so it's saying, let's see here. So it's saying this, paragraph 6. Nothing can reach the spirit from your ego, and nothing from the spirit can strengthen your ego, which means reduce the conflict within your ego. So there's no overlap. Okay, you got your spirit and you got your ego, and they are on parallel tracks. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so you thinking that if you allow no change to enter into your thought system, you'll find peace in your spirit. It ain't gonna be like that. But that's the misperception. And it says your ego is a contradiction, just so you know. Your ego thought system, your old thought system, it's a total contradiction. Your old belief system is a total contradiction that cancels out its own self. Just so you know about your own old thought system.
Wow.
So, just so we're learning here. What do you learn? You're learning about the old thought system that you used to believe in without question. You know, that now you're afraid to question. So your ego thought system, your past belief system, is just a total contradiction. In other words, it's a thought system that's always contradicting itself. It's always contradicting itself to the point where it just cancels itself out. So that's about your your old thought system. Now, then it says that's because yourself and God's self are totally in opposition. They're opposite. Your real self, Now, your small s self, your ego, your old belief system about yourself, and God's self, completely opposite. Your ego and God's self. Your old self, your ego self, and your God self are total opposition.
Yep.
So you got some opposites inside you. Have you ever noticed? You ever wondered why you feel so conflicted and confused?
It's not
Some days.
It's not a blending of the two.
No. Like, it's like this. You got your ego self and you got your God self. And they are on parallel tracks. They never blend. They never meet. Okay? So they are parallel tracks. So you got two opposite belief systems, two opposite selves within you. That's why some days you feel so confused, so conflicted. And of course, in Miracles is trying to help you to get to the point where one day you are not trying to maintain two opposite thought systems in your own consciousness.
Not serving God and mammon.
Exactly. Trying to get us to the point where we're not trying to serve two masters at the same time with our one consciousness. Yes.
But aren't we sort of stuck in the body's concerns, which mandates that we must be in that as long as we're in our body?
Well,
so
of course,
but if we're also watching you, awesome teacher that you are, and going where you take us, then that's the other one. But it seems like it's blending into the physical.
Right. So A Course in Miracles is saying that peace doesn't come from the blending of the two. So A Course in Miracles is saying that peace of mind comes from saying, I only serve one voice. I only listen to one teacher. That's what A Course in Miracles is saying. You know, so it's not like, oh, I blend my ego self and my God self. You know, A Course in Miracles is saying, oh, you know, you go, you know what? I am in hell right now. I'm hurting right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm only going to listen to one voice until I have only peace. And I'm going to only listen to the voice of love and compassion and forgiveness. Even though my ego's like, you feel guilty, be angry, you're a victim, attack will make you safe.
And sometimes you don't, just like this past week, I didn't feel like I could hear the voice.
Yes.
And I was in a real deep stump, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying in my mind the things that I know the voice would say to me.
Yes.
If I could hear the voice.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Because I'm just repeating truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to solve this. You've
Mm-hmm.
given it to Spirit.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
You know, those kind of things. Even though I didn't feel that way at all.
Right.
Even though
You're
I
still
feel
saying
like I
it.
have to solve something.
Right.
The saying it delivered you
Right.
Yeah.
out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, like Anna said, though, is, and I believe her, that because I was doing that, the time, I collapsed time
Yes.
as a teacher of God.
Exactly.
And so the duration of it, I got over it quicker by the next day. You know?
Exactly. Just like John said, like you're saying, one day we won't attempt to serve two masters. Let's do that today. Now, listen to peace.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, listening to the right voice doesn't mean that you totally believe it. It just means like what you said. Okay, I know that other voice says I'm innocent. I know that other voice says forgiveness is the way, you know, to happiness and to peace.
And that this other person is innocent.
And that this other person is innocent. You know, so listening to only one voice doesn't necessarily mean that you totally and completely believe it. It just means that you're listening. You're like, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to go with that. Even though I don't totally believe that. My pain and my anger lets me know that. But, you know, that it says that, you know, that here you got two voices. You got two teachers. And these two teachers do not overlap. They don't. They don't blend. They are, why? Because they are saying exactly opposite things. You have two voices, two thought systems in your mind. that are saying exactly opposite things. There ain't no blending them. You know, there's only a choice to be made. And of course, a miracle says heaven, which means total fulfillment, comes not from, oh, I blended the two. You know, oh, now my ego and my spirit are one. Of course, a miracle says that peace and fulfillment comes from a decision to listen to only one.
Wow. That is so...
And so that even when you're tempted, let's say you're having a bad week, you know, there's some stuff going down, and you are really tempted to have a judgmental, victim consciousness interpretation. Really, in the world's perception, somebody did you wrong. And you are tempted to interpret it like that. Of Course in Miracles is saying that if you really want peace, then you're going to have to decide to listen and side with only one of those voices in your mind. And you don't have to do it 100% wholeheartedly, or else you wouldn't need A Course in Miracles. But it does come down to like, okay, I'm going to side with this voice. Even though part of me is still tempted, part of me still sees it like they did me wrong, you know, but I'm on side with this voice that says no, that I am responsible for this. I invited this. I don't remember how, but somehow I did.
Wow.
You know I got some angry, I got some angry, unloving thoughts in there, so maybe I did attract that. But I'm going to side with this voice that says that I am responsible for my experience, and that as I forgive, this will disappear.
Wow.
And then you go, I'm going to side with that voice. In other words, you know, so it's not a blending of the two. You take a stand. You take a stand on the side of the voice of love and forgiveness.
Yay!
All right, yay! I mean, I can do that. I can do that. All right.
Wow.
Okay.
Thanks for saying
Nobody else told me that today except for Course in Miracles. All right. So it says that your ego and your God self, they are completely opposite in origin. They're completely opposite in will, and they are completely opposite in origin. In outcome. And your ego self and your God self, they are fundamentally irreconcilable because the spirit cannot perceive and the ego cannot know. And so your God self and your ego self are not in communication, and they can never be in communication. That's why heaven is a decision that you must make. Heaven is a decision you must make. Meaning, what kind of decision? I'm going to listen to this voice and I'm not going to listen to that voice. Period. That's where heaven comes from. You know, the ego voice, your ego self and your God self, they are fundamentally irreconcilable. You're not going to blend them. So that whole thing about that duality consciousness, you know, Course in Miracles is not like what we hear about in like Zen or Buddhism, like, oh, yin and yang, you have both parts, you have dark and light, you have fear and love, and that's just part of who you are, and as you accept both parts. Well, A Course in Miracles doesn't say that. A Course in Miracles is like, no, only one is true, and you decide which one you're going to side with.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Course in Miracles is non-duality in that regard.
Woo!
Course in Miracles doesn't say you must accept both darkness and light and fear and love, and that is part of you, because that is God and that's who you are, and until you accept that. And Course in Miracles doesn't say that. Sorry.
I was thinking of another scripture, Jesus speaking, saying, I wish you were either cold or hot.
Oh, right.
But because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth.
Whoa.
And I've always wondered what that meant, to spit them out of his mouth.
Right.
Because I think what the parable means is when he speaks in his riddles and parables, that they won't understand because they're trying to serve two masters.
Exactly.
Only those that have turned over can hear.
Exactly. So then Course in Miracles is saying the same thing, that only those who say, yes, I got two masters in my mind, and the Course in Miracles says peace and fulfillment comes from deciding on one, and one only, and that is the voice of truth, my God self. You know,
Which is Not dual.
Right, which is not dual. Myself is not dual. But I have accepted two teachers in my mind. And these two teachers in my mind say exactly opposite things.
Wow.
Right. That's
And they
the
will
root
never
point.
be reconciled.
And they don't
Root
communicate.
And they don't communicate. And if you really want to have unity consciousness or a mind that is integrated, meaning not split, that comes from deciding to listen to only one voice. And A Course in Miracles says you can listen to only one voice. And the voice of the Course, the teacher of the Course, says that was the lesson that this teacher that the Course came from says, this is the lesson I learned and that I came to teach. What lesson? The teacher of A Course in Miracles says, I learned how to listen to only one voice. And you can too.
And he said, I only speak the words that I hear my Father say.
Exactly. So, wait a minute. My mind has been split for a long time, and you're telling me I have the ability to listen to only one voice, even though I got two, even though I got ego's voice speaking to me really loudly and really convincingly. You telling me I could not listen to that voice? I could listen to only the voice for love? For real? Do you know how insistent and mean and loud my ego voice is? And you're telling me I have the power, the power of decision to listen to only one voice? Well, the teacher of the Course is like, yeah, you do. That was the lesson I learned, and that's the lesson I'm here to teach you.
Wow.
Because I have felt just like everybody else, like I'm a victim of the voices in my head.
Yeah.
And of course, Miracle's like, no, you're not. You have the power of decision. That's the one remaining power you have as a so-called prisoner of this world. You have the power. Nothing can take that power from you for you to say, I'm only going to listen to the voice for love. Yeah, the voice for anger and hate and death and lack and grievance may be as loud as all get out in my mind, but I still retain the power, and I will always retain the power to not listen to that voice and listen only to the voice for love that says we are one, you are safe, you are loved, you are innocent.
Yeah!
Ah!
Do it!
Woo! Yes!
Shake it up.
That's what A Course in Miracles is saying.
What she said.
Yeah, what they said.
You're saying what they said.
Okay, so saying that we got two voices in our head, we got two teachers in our head, and our awakening in our heaven comes from going, I'm only going to listen to one of those voices. Now, it says, paragraph 7, nevertheless, the ego can learn. Okay, so I got the ego, it's a voice, it's a teacher in my mind, and it don't know anything. It's stupid, it's mean, it's ignorant, meaning it doesn't know the truth. As loud as it is, as persistent as it is, as arrogant as it is, I know everything.
It's evil.
As evil as it is, as arrogant as it is, as persistent and loud as your ego voice is, it don't know anything. The Course says it can learn.
Learn?
Yeah, it can learn. Okay? Why is it? It's as if the ego, your ego voice can learn. Why? Because you, the ego's maker, can be misguided, but you cannot make the totally lifeless out of the life given. So in other words, your ego may be stupid, ignorant, mean, cruel, doesn't know the truth, loud, but it can learn. Okay? Because anything you made can be given truth.
Oh.
Okay? You made it, and you are of life. Oops. Okay. So the ego may not know anything, but because you made it, it can learn. So this is what A Course in Miracles is about. Listen, your spirit doesn't need to learn anything, right?
Oh.
But your ego sure does. Isn't that interesting? Your spirit doesn't need to learn. Your spirit already knows the truth. Your spirit already knows A Course in Miracles.
So the ego has the power of decision.
Well, you as the maker of the ego have the power of decision. Right. So it says your spirit doesn't need to be taught, but your ego must be taught. So the only thing that's learning A Course in Miracles is your ego. Isn't that interesting? Yes.
Who made the ego?
We did.
Okay.
Okay, we
so
did.
The spirit must be the ego?
Yeah. The spirit never made the mistake. So our spirit is the part of us that never thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to be separate so that I could have something more than everybody else? I could be special. Okay. So the ego, even though it's not real and not true, because we made it, it can learn.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, so then it says the ultimate reason why learning or teaching is perceived as frightening. Okay, the ultimate reason why teaching and learning is perceived as frightening. The ultimate reason why we're afraid to learn A Course in Miracles and to teach A Course in Miracles is, drum roll please, is because true learning does lead to the relinquishment, not the destruction, but the relinquishment of the ego to what? The light of the spirit. Okay, that's the real reason why we're afraid to learn A Course in Miracles or to teach A Course in Miracles. Okay. You may say you may say, I can't learn A Course in Miracles because it's this or it's that, it's too complicated, it's too hard, it's too long, too many words. I don't like the male gender pronouns. I don't like the Judeo-Christian terminology. That's why I can't learn A Course in Miracles. And that's certainly why I can't teach it. You may say that's the reason why you can't learn and teach A Course in Miracles. But the real reason is because true learning, which means true change, leads to the relinquishment, the giving up of the ego. Not the destruction of the ego. True learning leads to the relinquishment, the letting go of the ego.
What would happen if you did that?
To the light of spirit. What would happen if you let go of your ego?
That's all you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you would be like nowhere.
So Carrie is saying, what would happen if you actually did relinquish your ego? Okay, because that's all you know. Okay,
you're just floating in nothingness.
Not exactly. If you let go of your ego, which you say is all you know, then you would experience a world that was totally new and different. Okay, where you'd be like, oh my God, I've never experienced a world like this. I've never experienced a life like this.
It wouldn't be nothingness?
It wouldn't be nothingness. It would just be something that you've never experienced before.
Okay.
Yeah, but that you've always wanted in your heart. But thought was not possible.
But the ego was in the way.
Right. Okay, because your ego was telling you that's not possible.
Oh.
Okay, so the reason we're afraid to learn A Course in Miracles and the reason we're afraid to demonstrate A Course in Miracles, same thing. Because remember, don't forget what the Course in Miracles is saying here. If you want to learn these ideas, you're going to have to share them. Because why? Because giving and receiving are the same. Teaching or learning comes from teaching. It's totally reversed. The world says, oh, first you learn something, then you teach it. The Course in Miracles is saying, always saying the exact opposite of everything we learn. The Course in Miracles is saying, you want to learn something, you do, you're going to have to teach it. Okay? And the Course in Miracles is saying that our real reason for being afraid to teach A Course in Miracles is because we'll learn A Course in Miracles, and when we learn it, you will change for real at a fundamental level. But we're afraid of change. We say we're afraid of this situation, we're afraid of suffering, we're afraid of lack, we're afraid of abandonment, we're afraid of pain. Nuh-uh. You are afraid of the relinquishment of your old belief system.
Wow.
Of letting go
of
what
go.
you created.
You're afraid of letting go of what you've made. You're afraid of letting go. The world that you learned was real.
Best you know what you made.
Yes.
Well, you spend all your time on stuff.
What you've spent all your life learning.
Yeah. Like why?
Yeah, and identifying with.
It's like,
it says,
wasted.
Yeah.
It's like having a company that you built.
Yes.
And it's not the best thing. It seems to absorb all your time. It seems to own you. You don't own it.
A lot of stress.
But you're surviving.
Yes.
And then you're thinking to just shut the doors to that whole thing.
Yes.
And go do something different in life. That's scares everybody.
It's terrifying,
Yeah.
you know.
How can I trust something else I've never done
Exactly.
before?
Change is frightening. Wait a minute. Let go of everything I've ever made or known or experienced for something I don't know.
You've never done before.
Even though this thing that I've made and the only thing I've known has never really made me happy or made me feel so secure.
You have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, you know, so Course in Miracles is acknowledging that change is frightening. And it's saying that, we think that's our fear of change. We think that's our fear of learning a new way. We think that we're afraid to learn a new thing because our whole life will change, and that's frightening to us. You know, my whole life changing after all this time, that's scary to me because what's it gonna be?
Right.
And so we say that that's the reason we're afraid to learn something new is because we're afraid of change. The Course in Miracles is saying your real fear of learning and your real fear of change is that true learning leads to you letting go of your ego, like relinquishment of your ego. So in other words, when you're truly learning and you're truly changing, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be like, ego, F you.
Wow.
I let you go. I don't need you anymore.
Whoa.
I don't, fearful thought system.
Restraining order.
Thought system of lack and fear and guilt and shame and sin and death. I don't need you anymore. That's what happens to the ego in the end. It's not like the ego is like destroyed. So you don't let go of your ego by destroying it. No ego ends by you like, I'm gonna wage a battle on the ego. I just declared war on the ego.
Just give it up.
Yeah,
It's
just
like-
goes, I don't need you anymore. I'm done with you.
It's like Marianne saying her dad said that the bastards are always at the door.
Exactly.
They're always there.
Yeah, if
Exactly.
you're in a relationship, you don't take out a bazooka and destroy him. You just leave.
Yeah, if you want to end an abusive relationship, you don't take out a gun and shoot them. That relationship will stay forever.
Yeah.
You know, with you remembering that relationship while you're in jail. If you want to really end an abusive relationship, you got to go, I don't need you anymore, goodbye. You know, Course in Miracles says that your relationship with the ego does not end with the ego's destruction. You waging war on your ego. It goes like this, I don't need you anymore. I don't need this thought system. I don't want this thought system anymore. I don't need it. I don't need the ego.
I don't love you no more.
I don't love you anymore. I don't need you anymore, ego. I don't need your guilt. I don't need your fear. I don't need your plans and your defenses and your bad ideas.
Oh my
I don't
God.
trust you no more.
I don't trust you. Every time you ever gave me some advice, it made my life worse.
Wow.
I don't need you
Exactly.
anymore.
Wow.
You know, every time you're like, I'll tell you how to feel better, attack. I'll tell you how to handle your fear, make a plan. You know, the Course in Miracles says that when you, true learning, true change leads to the relinquishment of the ego, not its destruction. And that is why our ego is afraid of change. And that's why the ego is afraid of our learning. Ego doesn't want you to learn. Ego doesn't want you to change because the ego knows that once you learn, true learning, then you'll say, I don't need you anymore, ego. Bye-bye. And then you will skip away. That's why the ego is afraid of you learning a new thought system and learning a better way. That's why you're afraid. That's why your ego doesn't want you to learn A Course in Miracles. And that's why your ego doesn't want you to demonstrate or teach A Course in Miracles. That's why my ego doesn't want me to learn or teach A Course in Miracles. And learning A Course in Miracles means to teach A Course in Miracles. And teaching, don't forget, means demonstration. Doesn't mean you start a class. It means you demonstrate it. Teaching A Course in Miracles means demonstrating it, not making a class, just so you know. Now, your ego doesn't want you to do that because your ego knows that if you do true learning about who you are and what the ego is, eventually you'll go, I don't need that ego anymore. You know, the ego would love it if you would wage war on the ego, because that makes the ego real. You know, that whole like war on drugs, war on terror, you know, all the other war on cancer. Ego's like, yeah, awesome, woohoo. Ego loves it when you make war on it.
It's this big party.
Oh yeah,
War
it's like
on
woohoo.
War on anything.
War on anything, which is war on the ego. The ego is afraid of you learning truly. You don't want you to do that, because once you do true learning, you're going to be like, ego, dang. Isn't that all those plans and defenses, they all attacks and guilt and grievances, they never made my life better. They never made me feel safe, not one bit, not no way, no how. But of course, miracles really did. And so I don't need the ego anymore. And then you just walk away.
The worst picker in the stock market has a better track record than the ego.
That's right. That's right. The
Okay,
worst
the
investment
process
in the
of
stock
Rico.
market has a better track record than the ego in terms of plans that make you happy.
That's hilarious.
Yes. So, Renu said, thank you, Renu, for your very light and easy question, which is, but how can I ignore death? I just love those easy questions. Awesome. Thank you, Renu.
So,
Yes,
teacher,
all
give us the
right.
answer.
So teacher, how can I ignore death? Well, don't start with death, Renu. Start with the ego, all the other ego stuff, all the ego symptoms of irritation and grievances. So, you know, don't start with like the seemingly big one. Start with ignoring your grievances. Like say your ego is like, hey Renu, I know how to make you feel safe and good about yourself. Hold a grievance, attack, judge. And so when you hear that voice, then you can say, I can't serve two masters. I can't serve the Lord of grievances. I can't serve grievances and the truth. So, and I know what grievances offer me. It's called my past. And so I'm not going to listen to and serve that voice. I'm going to listen to another voice that says something else. So start with that. That's plenty. That's going to be plenty enough. Okay? But good question, Renu. Thank you. And Reno says, beautiful, bye-bye ego. Exactly. And Reno says, who are we? I just love your easy questions, Reno. That's so wonderful. You obviously want to know. But who are we? Okay. Well, for starters, Renu, right now, who we are is the one who still retains the power to choose. So let's start with that. And remember that you always retain the power of decision.
Wow.
That is your one remaining power as seeming slave of the world. So, so remember that. I am the one who always retains the power to choose which voice I listen to. Now, as you listen, as you say, I'm not going to listen to the voice of grievance and the voice of fear and the voice of guilt, because I already did that. I'm going to do something new and different. So I'm going to listen to the voice of love. I'm going to listen to the voice of truth. Then you will, as you listen to the voice of love and truth, then you will remember who you really are.
Wow.
You'll go, oh, right, I am only love. Oh, I am only love, and I am only love that never dies. Almost forgot. But you only remember that after you decide to listen only to the voice for love. Now, listen, you've already listened to the voice of grievances. You've already listened to the voice of guilt and fear. You've already done that. You've done it. You've already done it to the max, right? And what has it produced? So do something different. What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen?
Sorry,
You retain the world as you've experienced it up till now.
That could happen.
You know,
You still pretend
don't
to
be
die.
afraid to try something different.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to change.
Yeah.
You know, the worst that could happen is you keep the world as you've experienced up till now.
Yeah, that would suck.
You know, you keep what's familiar. That's the worst that could happen. So, don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to listen to a different voice. Okay? You're afraid of change. You're afraid to listen to a different voice because you're just afraid of change. But, you know, what could you lose by asking? Okay? The worst that could happen is you just retain your situation in your life and your world exactly as it has been before now.
Oh my God.
So, if you don't like what happens when you choose the better voice and the better way, then you can always go back to listening to the voice you always listened to all your life, and that your parents listened to, and your grandparents and your great-grandparents listened to. You can always go back to that if you don't like the joy and the bliss and the happiness, the fulfillment, the new world, the heaven that you get from daring to change, which means daring to learn a new idea, a new interpretation. So, we are talking about our fear of change here. And don't forget the name of this section is called The Devoted Teacher. So we're going to go back to that. What is a devoted teacher? The devoted teacher is the one who's going to be like, I don't know what the better way is, but I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to face my fear of change, and I'm going to listen to another voice that I obviously do have. I'm afraid to change, but I'm going to take a chance. And I'm going to listen to a new thought. I'm going to listen to a new voice. I'm going to listen to a more loving voice. I'm going to take a chance. Now that's what a devoted teacher does. A devoted teacher faces their fear of change. A devoted teacher faces their fear of letting go of the past. That's what a devoted teacher does. You know, a non-devoted teacher goes, well, I don't know what the future's going to bring. I do know what the past is. Someone will go with the past. That's
Familiar.
the not devoted teacher is going to go with the familiar because they're afraid, even though the past has not made them happy. So what are you going to be? Are you going to be a devoted teacher? Or are you going to be a demonstrator or a teacher of fear? Are you going to be someone who just continues the past on into the future? Who does the world no good, no favors? Or are you going to be a devoted teacher who faces their fear of change and listens to a better voice, a different voice than the voice they've been listening to for all their life? So, if I can tell you this, the world needs you.
Wow.
To be fearless and to face your fear of change and to listen to a better voice that you do have in your mind. Everybody has it. Everybody has a better voice in their mind. Everybody. Why? Because God, who created us all, gave it to us and put it inside of us. And God wasn't like, you get it, but you don't get it, but you get it, but you don't get it. Our Creator, who loves us all equally, gave us all the better voice, the better way. Every one of us, because our Creator loves us equally. Created us equally, loves us equally, gave us the same equally. And so that's how we know that everybody has a better voice that they can listen to, called the voice for love.
Awesome.
Everybody.
That is awesome.
Everybody, no matter what you've been doing or thinking up till this moment now, it's
Sounds
still the
so
truth.
good.
You may deny that, but that God, our Creator, created us all equally and gave us all that better voice.
Yes.
The voice for love, the voice for truth within us.
Awesome.
Hallelujah. All right. So how are we doing on time? Oh my goodness. Okay, good. All right. So, and then Reno says, "Who are we?" Yes. Yeah. We are only love. Okay. But the Course in Miracles says, listen, when you've forgotten who you are, then the best you can do is learn how to make a right choice. Eventually, we're going to go beyond choice to realize that reality requires no choice. But right now, while we are asleep, believing in duality, then the best you can do is choose right. But there will come a time when you've chosen right enough where you realize, oh, there is nothing to choose. Because I am only love and you are only love, and only love is real. Now there's nothing to choose. So at this point of our evolution and growth, the best we can do is realize that we do have the power to choose and to make that better choice. Okay? And that's what the devoted teacher does. The devoted teacher goes, I got to make a choice to make about which voice to listen to. I will always retain that power of decision, and I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use it, and I'm going to teach it, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to teach it so that I can use it. And I'll teach it so I can remember it.
Yeah.
And that's what a devoted teacher does.
Okay.
And then, but eventually, the devoted teacher goes beyond choice. So that's who we are, Renu. Thank you for asking. And Renu says, yo, I want to join a better voice. Beautiful.
So do I.
Good job. Me too. Us too, Renu. Beautiful. Now, any other questions or comments before we move along?
I love what you're saying.
Right on. Thank you. And I love your love of it. And I love your, thank you for hearing it.
Oh my God.
And thank you for teaching and sharing your excitement and enthusiasm.
I live for this. Hearing this is
Right on.
the best part of life.
Right on. I feel the same way. And that's why we have been friends for over 20 years. Because we have a shared love of that.
Like 26 years.
Yeah, 26 years. Thank you. Exactly. I'm so happy to see that I can have long-lasting relationships.
Right?
Thank you for being a demonstration of that in my life.
No, I didn't say one.
That's so good. Okay. All right. Okay. So then it says this. The ego, we said, okay. So blah, blah, blah. Where were we? Okay. Oh, yes. So now we're in paragraph 7, sentence 4. Okay, so it said, okay, so now let's read again sentence 2. Your spirit doesn't need to be taught, but your ego must be taught. Okay, so what are we doing in A Course in Miracles? Teaching our egos. And the ultimate reason why learning or teaching is perceived as frightening is because true learning of A Course in Miracles does lead to the relinquishment, not the destruction, but the relinquishment of the ego to what? The light of the spirit. That's what happens to the ego. The ego doesn't get the ego doesn't get destroyed with a sword. No! That's not what happens to the ego. Does not end with violence. The ego does not end with attack or violence. The ego ends with you going, I don't need you anymore. I don't need you anymore. I'm going to let you go to the light of spirit. Okay? That's how your ego, that's the only way your ego ends. That's the only way anything of the ego ends. Okay? You want to end something of the ego? You want to end your poverty, your pain, your sadness, your sorrow, your grief?
Yes.
You want it to end?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't end with you attacking it.
How does it end?
You let it go.
You let it go.
I don't need you. I don't need you anymore.
Into the light of the spirit.
I let you go to the light of the spirit. I discovered the light of the spirit is way more cool and way more fun and way more true and way more wonderful. I don't need you anymore. That is how anything of your ego ends. You know, the ego does not end with you attacking it. You're just like, I don't need you anymore. Course in Miracles says that you could, like that, say, I have no more need of you, ego, and all your minions. Sickness, lack, poverty, disease, death, sorrow, depression, despair. You could just go, I don't need you anymore. I realize I've learned something better. I don't need you anymore. That is how your ego and all your ego's minions or all your ego's symptoms are relinquished.
Wow.
Just
Awesome.
so
good,
we know.
Good to know.
Ego does not end with attack.
Who knew?
So stop attacking your ego and its symptoms. That's not how it goes away. Now, it says this. It says, you relinquishing your ego. I don't need you anymore, ego. It says that is the change your ego fears. Of course, that's what your ego is afraid of. That's what the ego is afraid of.
But it's also afraid of being destroyed.
Right. Well, it would love you to try to destroy it.
That would be fun.
Yeah. The ego's like, yeah, destroy me. I'm evil. Come on.
Yeah.
Fight with me. Come on. Bring out the big guns. Get your sword. Come on.
Yeah, I get it.
Declare a war on the ego.
Oh yeah. It is like
And get the president or the president's wife to declare war on me. Yeah.
Game on.
Okay, right. Game on. The ego's real fear is that you go, I don't need you anymore. I just let you go. I don't need you. It's like the ego's worst fear is that you just stop calling it back.
Then you won't play with it.
Yeah. You won't. Yeah. It's like I don't even call it back. Ego's like, you know, I can handle everything, but you not calling me back.
Right.
So it says that is the change the ego must fear, because the ego does not share my charity, says the teacher of the Course, the voice of the Course. And then the voice of the Course, the teacher of the Course, says, my lesson was like yours. And because I learned this lesson, I can teach it, says the voice of the Course. And the voice of the Course says, I never attack your ego. I'm not attacking your ego. Here's what our teacher says. Our teacher says, I don't attack your ego. The teacher, the voice of the Course, says this. But I do try to teach you how your ego's thought system has arisen. I do try to teach you how your ego's thought system has arisen. So the ego's like, you still believe in all, your teacher isn't like, you still believe all that? Oh my God, how long have you been studying A Course in Miracles? Come on, are you retarded? Our teacher is not attacking our ego. A good teacher does not attack your ego. And you as a good teacher is not going to attack your ego or someone else's ego. Our teacher just says this. Would you like to know how that thought system of fear and guilt and shame and pain and suffering and lack and poverty came about?
Yes.
Would you like to hear that story?
Yes.
Okay. That's what our teacher does with our ego. Okay. So don't attack your ego. And anything that's attacking your ego or anybody else's ego, that's not your teacher. That's not the teacher of A Course in Miracles. Okay. So if some ego teacher is attacking your ego, or if you are attacking your own ego, I can't believe I did that again. Oh my God, I'm such a terrible Course in Miracles student. I'm such a terrible Course in Miracles teacher. That's not the voice of your teacher. Certainly not a good teacher. So the voice that heals you is going to go like this. Would you like to know how that guilt and that fear and that problem arose? Are you curious? Okay, that's the voice of a good teacher and our teacher. Okay? So, good to know the difference. It says, and then here's what our teacher says. Okay? I love it. Bridget says, you don't attack because it's not real. Exactly. And Bridget says, I choose to let illusions go. Yeah, just let them go. That's how the ego goes and all the ego's symptoms. Okay. So now we hear our teacher speaking to us. Okay, you ready to hear your teacher speaking directly to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Me too. That's why I love A Course in Miracles. I love hearing my teacher speaking directly to me. It's very powerful. And so now our teacher says, when I remind you of your true creation, when I remind you of your truth, says our teacher, your ego cannot but respond with fear. Okay? So when we hear in the Course in Miracles our teacher telling us our truth, your ego, it cannot but respond with fear. You ever wondered why there's a part of you that has so much resistance to A Course in Miracles? This is why. Okay, anybody recognize that? Has anybody ever experienced that? Some resistance to A Course in Miracles?
Yes.
Has anybody experienced any resistance to listening to teachers of A Course in Miracles?
Yes.
Okay. Has anybody experienced resistance to sharing the ideas of A Course in Miracles?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's why. Because when our teacher, the teacher of A Course in Miracles, tells you of your true creation, your ego will never, ever, ever, ever go, oh, that's nice. Or your ego will never go like, mm-hmm. Your ego cannot but respond with fear. When you let the teacher of A Course in Miracles remind you of your true creation, your truth. Your ego will never have a neutral response to A Course in Miracles. So stop expecting the ego to be like, oh, this is great. So stop expecting your ego to support you in studying these ideas and listening to these ideas or teaching these ideas. I've been teaching A Course in Miracles for over 30 years and my ego still resists every single week before I teach. My ego still responds with fear before every time that I teach. You know, you would think after 30 years my ego would be like, whatever, okay, fine. But it doesn't. Okay? So we want to release that expectation that our egos are going to be so happy that we're like taking in these new ideas, or we're going to teach these new ideas. Don't have that expectation. Don't have that expectation your ego's not going to throw up every roadblock it can. So don't have that expectation. Because if you do, then when it comes time to learn these ideas or to teach these ideas, which you're going to have to teach them to learn them, and when your ego throws up every roadblock in the book, technically, emotionally, you name it, then you're not going to be thrown off. You won't be like, oh, screw it. Nobody's hearing it anyway. Whatever. Okay, so you got to know that. That what is it? That when the teacher of A Course in Miracles reminds you of your true creation, your ego cannot be but anything but afraid. So don't expect anything otherwise, and don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. It's like, you know, I'm still tempted twice a week to fall for it and go like, I don't need this. This is too complicated. This is too much stress. And oh, who cares anyway? Blah, 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 blah. That's just my ego responding with fear. Okay? What else is my ego gonna do? Is my ego ever gonna go, I love it that you teach A Course in Miracles. That's so fabulous. How can I support you? My ego's never gonna say that, and your ego's never gonna say that. Your ego's gonna respond with fear. Every time you allow the Course in Miracles to remind you of your truth, your true creation. Okay, so, all right. Okay, how are we doing on time here? Okay, any questions or comments? All right, any questions or comments?
Greg had it.
Greg,
Yes.
did he?
He wanted, and you did not call him.
Oh, Carrie told on you.
Yeah,
I was saying it makes more sense now that when the Course speaks, all sickness can go if you realize that there's no more value in it.
Yes, exactly.
Holding on to it.
That's
Sickness.
right. That's
And
exactly
that makes
right.
more sense listening to this.
Yes.
Why it says that.
Exactly. Teacher's manual. How is healing accomplished?
Right.
How is, of course, in the teacher's manual, how is healing accomplished? Greg is reminding us, healing is accomplished when you go, I have no more use for this sickness.
And it's the same as I have no more use for the same word as I have no more use for the ego.
I have no more use for the ego. You know, the ego wants me to be afraid and angry and offended and sick and broke and upset, you know. And the healing of it is where you relinquish it. And relinquishing the ego means I have no more use for it. I don't need that anymore. I found a better way. I found a better interpretation. I found a better thought. And what's the better thought? I made this problem, and I also have the power to choose something better, something loving, something abundant, something free.
Which no one would know unless you told us that it said that. So thank you
Right on.
for giving us the key to happiness.
Right on. Thank you.
Salvation.
Thank you. Thank you for
That
being
is.
here so that I can teach it, so that I can learn it,
Okay.
so that I can experience the change that I want to experience. Okay, so I want to experience a change in my life, in my world. I really do. You know, I want to experience a change of like being in a world where I'm afraid all the time, to being in a world where I don't feel afraid, where I feel safe and I feel loved and I feel supported. I want to change.
Me too.
I want some change. My discomfort in the way it is now has overcome my fear of change.
Oh.
You know, it used to be that my fear of change was greater than the discomfort that I was experiencing in my world, but not anymore. My world has become so uncomfortable that I'm like, okay, I will face my fear of change so that I can experience a better world, a world that I feel safe in, and a world where I feel safe that my child is in, or that my beloved is in. So I'm going to face my fear of change here, which means I'm going to face my resistance to learning A Course in Miracles. Okay, we have a lot of resistance to learning a better way. Here's A Course in Miracles. It's a very complete and thorough curriculum. It's a very complete curriculum. It's like, here's a curriculum. It's very complete and thorough and effective. And if you work this curriculum from the beginning like it says to work it, you will experience a change of mind. But we have a lot of resistance to the learning of it because we're really afraid of the change that will come about. We're really afraid, or let's just say our ego is afraid to learn A Course in Miracles because our ego knows that if you learn A Course in Miracles, you will know that you don't have to listen to that voice anymore, and you don't have to suffer anymore because of the ego. And the ego knows that. So it doesn't want you to learn this. And so it's going to give you all kinds of defenses to learning A Course in Miracles. And they are legion, correct?
Correct.
Even a Course in Miracles teacher who's in love with A Course in Miracles, I have resistance to learning it.
Wow.
That's me in love with A Course in Miracles and teaching A Course in Miracles for over half my life. And so if I got resistance to A Course in Miracles, I know other people do. And so this section is so brilliant in terms of helping us to overcome that resistance to learning a better way. You know, it's like, let me tell you why you have resistance to learning A Course in Miracles. This is why. Now, once you know what's really behind your resistance to learning A Course in Miracles, then a lot of your resistance will go down. You know, and that's what we're looking for, because we really do want to change. Okay? And you deserve a change. Okay, so I'm going to finish this paragraph and then we'll go on. So, paragraph 8. Okay? So, Carolyn says, oh snap, awesome. Work it, resistance will fade. Carolyn says, afraid of my greatness, exactly. And Carolyn says, holy curriculum, LOL, amen. Okay, paragraph 8. Teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now. Okay? You want some strength?
Mm-hmm.
Teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now. Okay? You want to feel strong? You want to access your greatest power? Teaching and learning now. Why? Because you must change your own mind and help others to change theirs. Why is teaching and learning my greatest strengths now? Because that's the only way to change your mind. The only way to change your mind is to do teaching and learning. And the only way to help others is to change your own mind. And the only way to change your mind is to teach so you can learn. Wow. You know, Course in Miracles is very different. It's saying you want to learn something new and different, you're going to have to teach it. You know, it's not like what the world says, where, you know, well, first you learn it, then you teach it. So, Course in Miracles says, if you're going to change your mind, you're going to have to learn something new. And the only way to learn something new is to share it, to give it. And that's your greatest strengths now. And if you feel weak right now and you feel limited, then you need your strength. You need some strength. And teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now. Because you must change your own mind and you must help others to change theirs. That's what time it is. That's what you're here to do. And until you do that, you're going to feel unfulfilled.
Wow.
Okay.
That's huge.
And so it's pointless to refuse to tolerate change. It's pointless to refuse to tolerate change of your mind. It's pointless to refuse to tolerate changing because you believe that you can demonstrate by doing so, by not changing your mind, that the separation never occurred. In other words, you, the dreamer, who doubts the reality of your dream while you're still dreaming it is not really healing your level split. So that is not going to help. Well, I don't need to change because I'm already perfect. In other words, don't fall for the lie. Don't be in denial. Don't be like, well, there's nothing I'm already perfect, so I don't really need to change. That's just you trying to pretend that the separation or the split in your mind didn't happen. Stop trying to pretend that you don't have a split in your mind. Stop trying to pretend that by going, well, I don't really need to do anything because it's already done. Okay? Don't do that. That's a particularly unworthy form of denial. You do believe that the split has occurred, obviously. So stop trying to pretend that didn't happen. It says, the dreamer who doubts the reality of their dream while they're still dreaming it is not really healing the level split. In other words, you have dreamed of a separated ego. You do believe in your ego. You do believe that you are your ego. You still listen to your ego. You still believe your ego. Come on now. So stop pretending that you don't believe in your ego. Okay? You obviously believe in your ego or you would not be suffering. So stop trying to use the truth to be in denial. Being in denial about your ego is not going to help you. So don't use A Course in Miracles to be in denial about your ego, which you obviously believe in. Listen, if you're still suffering in any way, shape, or form, you believe in the split. You believe your ego is you. So stop trying to be in denial about that and go, well, I'm not a body. I don't believe in the ego. Okay, that's not going to help you. What's going to help you? I obviously believe that my mind is split. I obviously listen and believe in my ego. And so what can I do to stop that? Okay, well, you can teach a better way. That's the only way that you're going to correct or relinquish your ego, not being in denial about your ego. So you relinquish your ego by teaching others, you're not your ego, you're not your ego, I'm not my ego, you're not your body, you're not your ego, you're not your behavior, you're not your mistakes, I'm not my mistakes, I'm not my behavior, you're not your mistakes, you're not your behavior, you're not your body. That's the only way we're going to relinquish our ego, not being in denial. Bliss ninnies, I call them. Okay? So this is remember we're talking about the devoted teacher, which means the good teacher, which means the effective teacher. And the effective teacher is not somebody who's like teaching, be in denial about your ego. Okay? Very important concept. And it says, you have dreamed of a separated ego. And which means you have believed in a world which rests upon a separated ego. Okay? You believe in your ego. Yeah. And you believe in the world that rests on your ego. Yeah. Don't pretend you don't.
Who would?
A lot of quote truth students do.
How is stupid?
Yeah, where they're right. It's ineffective. Right. Okay? So in other words, a devoted good teacher is not someone who's like, oh, the ego isn't real. It doesn't exist. Like, we don't need to talk about that. It's not real anyway. In other words, a good teacher isn't being in denial about your own belief in your own ego when obviously you still believe in it. Okay, as evidenced by the suffering in your own experience, in your own body, and the world around you. So, it says you cannot, it says this is very real to you, so stop pretending that it's not. Stop pretending that your ego is not very real to you. Okay? So when somebody is suffering in your presence, don't say to them, well, you know it's just an illusion. Stop pretending that it's not very real to you. You know, when you are suffering, don't pretend that that's not very real to you. You're suffering because it's very real to you, right? If you didn't believe the ego was real, you wouldn't be suffering. So don't be in denial like that, and don't teach denial like that. It's a particularly unworthy form of denial. So it says this: you cannot undo your ego by doing nothing, which means not changing your mind. Okay? You can't undo your ego by being in denial and pretending that pretending you don't have an ego. You're not going to undo your ego by being in denial about it. That's not going to work. The only way that you are going to undo your ego is by changing your mind. That's it. Stop being in denial about the ego and how much you believe it's real. The only way you can undo it is by changing your mind. Beautiful. In other words, facing it and looking at it and going, wow, I made this and I believe it. My goodness, yeah. I believe I'm separate. Yeah. I obviously believe I'm a body. I mean, look, I'm suffering.
Especially in trauma.
Obviously, I believe this is real. And so, yeah. So the only way to undo your belief in it is to go, I would like to change my mind. I would like to learn a new idea. I would like to learn a new thought system. I'd like to learn something better. That's the only way to undo your ego and all your ego's minions, which is all your ego's symptoms. Okay? And now, here's the good news, everybody. Da-da-da, drum roll, please. Okay, we just learned what doesn't work about undoing the ego or healing the symptoms of the ego. Okay? What did we learn doesn't work? Denial. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pretend that I don't believe in the ego, even though it's obvious I do.
Right.
That doesn't work. What does work? If you are willing to renounce the role of of guardian of your thought system and open it to love, open it to truth, open it to your teacher, then your teacher says, I will correct your thought system very gently, and lead you home. What's home? Back to complete fulfillment. Okay. Back to a state of mind of no need, no lack, no conflict, abundance. Okay? So, that is the answer. Okay? So, I love it how the last sentence that we do is the answer. We heard the problem. The problem is that I have a split mind. I am listening to two masters. Okay? And I have a split mind and I'm suffering from that. And of course, Miracles is saying also the problem is that you're trying to feel better without changing your mind. I'm like, I want to feel better. I don't like suffering. But please tell me another way of how to feel better without changing my mind. That's too hard. You know, we're like, I want to feel better, but I don't want to change my mind because that's hard and I'm lazy. So I'm just going to be in denial about it. Yeah. And then wonder why I'm still suffering. Like, oh, here I am, this wonderful new age teacher person, but yet I'm still broke, still sick, still like very angry. You know, so Course in Miracles says it's like this. Stop being in denial about the ego that you do believe in, obviously, and do this instead. And instead of that, go like this. Spirit, here is what I believe in. I believe I'm a body. I believe I'm split between two voices. I believe I have to listen to this voice. I believe I'm a victim. I believe I'm a body. I believe that I'm going to die. I believe whatever. I believe that I believe that I deserve to suffer. I believe I'm guilty. And here's my beliefs. Now you look at them. Okay? That's what it means to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system. So instead of being in denial about your ego thoughts, opening up your ego thoughts. Okay? So that's something that's different about A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is like, stop being in denial about your ego thoughts, acknowledge your ego thoughts, and open them up to Spirit. And go, you look at these, Spirit, take them from me. Here's Spirit, here's my guilt. Here's my fear. Here is my belief that I'm guilty. Here's my belief that I deserve to suffer and die. Here, look at this for me and correct it for me. That is the curriculum of A Course in Miracles. And it's different than a lot of what we consider New Age spiritual paths, where it seems like you just pretend that you don't have an ego. You know, we're one. I love everyone. I love everyone. I don't have any murderous thoughts whatsoever because I'm a good spiritual person. Okay, anybody recognize that? So A Course in Miracles is saying that is not the better way, and that will not produce change. What will produce change is where you stop pretending that you believe in a separated ego and the world that rests on that separated ego. And you go, higher mind, Spirit, here's my ego. I hate, I'm afraid, I feel guilty, I feel ashamed, I want to take, I have violent thoughts, I have murderous thoughts, I think I am this body, and here, I'm going to open that up to you, meaning I'm going to stop hiding it from you. I'm going to stop pretending, I'm going to stop hiding. And I'm going to say, Spirit, please look upon my ego thoughts. They are ugly, they are mean, and they are ignorant, and they hurt. And here, take them, you look at them. The Spirit says, the voice of the Course says, if you will do that, if you will open them up, stop hiding them, stop pretending, stop being in denial, and open them up and be honest about your own ego thoughts, then your higher mind and your teacher will correct them. And how? Gently. Your teacher's not going to go, oh my God, you should be ashamed of yourself. How long have you been teaching the Course in Miracles? Your teacher's going to correct them gently, lovingly, with compassion. Is your higher mind teacher going to shame you for those thoughts that you open up to it? Not at all. Your true teacher, the voice of the Course, is going to very gently teach you how those mean, cruel, untrue, guilty, shameful thoughts came about. That's all. That's it. Your teacher, the voice of the Course, will correct your ego and its thoughts very gently. Just teaching you how they came about. That's it. So that's the difference between your true teacher, your real teacher, and your ego. Your ego would never open up its own belief system to the light of love. Your ego is all about hiding and pretending and being in denial and pretending and being in denial and projecting. Okay? But the voice of the Course is saying, if you will open it up to me, be honest. We must hide nothing from each other. Be honest about that you believe in your ego and you believe in the world that's been built upon your ego. You believe it's real, and that's why you're upset. But just acknowledge it, be honest about it, and say, Spirit, here, please, would you look on this for me? Look on these beliefs. Look on my fears, my guilt, and my shame, and my anger, and my hatred. And then it will correct them gently and lead you home. Home. Would you like to go home?
Yes.
Right. It will lead you home. So after you get out of denial, and bring your ego and all your ego's makings and minions to the voice of truth, to the teacher of A Course, and you go, here it is. This is the crap I believe in, and here's the crap that it has made, then your teacher, the voice of the Course, will go, awesome, thanks. Correct it, and then go, now would you like to go beyond them? Now would you like to go to a state of mind, the real world, where it's so much better, that reflects your innocence and your guiltlessness, and then you go, sure, I would. And then it leads you home to another state of mind, another life, and another world that was here all along. You just didn't see it. Okay, so that is it for what we're going to do for this session.
That was so much.
Right on.
So amazing, like life-changing, incredible.
Right on.
Wisdom coming in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Standing up there and saying what we need to hear.
Thank
so
you.
Desperately and powerfully. It's amazing. I mean, that we could use it.
Yes, right on.
Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system in order to be here and to do this as well.
Thank
you. Anybody who was like, no, the way I see it is the only way to see it. Okay, that is not somebody who's renouncing the role of guardian of their own thought system to the light of truth, to the light of spirit. And you're amazing at it, and so are you, Greg. So that's what time it is, because it's the only way to have real change. It's the only way to have real learning. And it's the only way for you to change your mind and to help others to do the same. That's why we're here. That's why we were born at this time. To learn how to change our own minds and to help others to do the same in whatever way is most fun for us. That's what we're here for. What is the way that's most fun for you to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system? In other words, to learn, to change, and to grow. What's the most fun way for you? That's your way, and that's the way that you are supposed to do it for yourself and also to help others to do the same. That's why we're here. We're not here to just get some more stuff. We're not here to get some more specialness. We're not here to whoever gets the most toys wins. Whoever gets the most things and the most specialness before you dies wins. And that's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. And how do you know? Because it hasn't fulfilled you. That's how we know. We've all been working that program. Get some more stuff, get some more specials, get some more stuff, get some more specials, blah, 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 blah. And then we're more depressed, more full of despair. We're here to learn a better way, to open up our belief system to the light of love and spirit, to allow it to be gently corrected, and then to help others to do the same in whatever form is most fun for us. That's why we're here. So, good job listening to this. Obviously, you are doing it, or else you wouldn't be listening to this. Good job, you guys. Good job, me. And
awesome.
Right. And I thank you for watching and joining this healing circle, and all the world that is benefiting from this, which all the world is, thanks you as well, whether you get that email from them or not.
Right.
So, all right. So now we're going to do announcements, and then we will do a few-minute integration meditation. Hi, Kwana. It says, it's okay to tell the truth about the ego. Yes. And Demi says, fun and done. Excellent. Hello, Sarka. Lovely to see you here, too. And love to you also, Renu. Awesome. Okay, so announcements are this. You can find all of my classes on my YouTube channel. So go to my YouTube channel. My name is spelled A-N-N-A and last name is K-U-J-A-W-A. Go to my YouTube channel. You can find all of my classes from going back years and years, and Course in Miracles readings where I read the Course, and Course in Miracles meditations, all of that, good, all the many different ways the Course in Miracles comes through me. You can find that on my YouTube channel. So go to my YouTube channel and hit like and subscribe while you're there, so that eventually I can get to a YouTube live stream. That's one of my goals. So, and also, please share this video on your Facebook stream as well, so that other people can hear this loving, loving, loving healing message for themselves as well. remember, if you're gonna learn it, you gotta share it. So thank you for sharing this on your Facebook stream as well. So those are the announcements. Oh, also, I'm a holistic psychotherapist, and I have a psychotherapeutic niche called Miracle Psychotherapeutics, where I take my psychotherapeutic experience and apply it for Course in Miracles students who would like to experience a miracle, which means a change for the better in some area of life where they have felt stuck. So if you could use something like that in your experience, then send me a message on Facebook or YouTube, and then I will send you my number and you can text me. So that's all for announcements, and now we're going to do the integration meditation. So for about 5 minutes or so, we're just going to use these ideas. How about that? We're going to do something different and use some loving ideas. We're going to take whatever we were going through today, whatever we've been going through that has been painful and difficult and hurtful and frightening, and we are going to open up our thought system to a loving, brilliant, genius teacher that is within us, so that our loving, brilliant, genius teacher can gently correct our mistaken beliefs that are hurting us, and experience going home to peace, home to joy, home to safety, home to relaxing. So I want you to close your eyes if you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, and take a breath and just feel how these ideas feel when you hear them. And when you hear these ideas in a loving circle of beings, souls, who just like you want to go home to peace, to the world where they feel safe and fulfilled, where they don't have to worry about their loved ones or how they're going to make it. How does it feel to hear these ideas in a circle of mighty companions who want the same thing you do? And just breathe that feeling in. Beautiful. Ah, truth feels so good. So good. Hearing the truth about yourself feels so good, because it's releasing you from fear. It's releasing you, it's healing suffering. It's releasing you from guilt and shame. It's healing your heart, correcting your mind. Beautiful. Okay. So, all right. So I want you to ask yourself, what is it that I want healing for in my life right now? Where is it that I need peace? Where is it I need healing? Where is it that I want some change? A change for the better. Where is it I need healing? Where is it I need some peace? Where is it I need some abundance? Where is it in my life I need some change? Change for the better. And I want you to bring that area of your life into your awareness. And take a breath. All right. Now, I want you to tell yourself, I am willing to face my fear of change in this area of my life. I'm willing. I've been afraid of change. I've been afraid to question my beliefs relative to this area of my life. I've been afraid to I've been afraid to look at my own beliefs. I've been afraid to question my interpretations in this area of life because I've been afraid to change. But I'm willing to face my fear of change, that I might have a miracle. All right, so the way we heard in this section to do that is where we're going to say to that loving voice, that spirit of truth within us, that voice for truth and healing within us, we're going to say to that voice, Spirit of truth within me, I'm going to open up to you. I'm going to renounce the role of guardian of my thoughts in this area. I'm going to share with you my beliefs, my fears, my fear of change. I'm going to share with you what I honestly tell myself in this area of my life. I'm going to open up to you my fears, my shame, my guilt. And I'm going to open up my beliefs to you. I'm going to stop standing guard. I'm going to stop needing to be right. And I'm going to go, Spirit, this is what my ego tells me. This is what my ego tells me. This is what I am feeling and believing that is hurting me and is making me afraid. Here's my fears. Here's my shame. Here's my guilt. Here's my worries. Here it is. And so I want you to go ahead and open up. Renounce the role of guardian of your thoughts and your beliefs in this area of your life. And tell your higher mind about your ego. Stop hiding your ego. Stop pretending that you don't have an ego. Stop pretending you don't believe what your ego's telling you in this area. And out your ego. Out it. Out its thoughts. Out its beliefs. Spirit of truth, my ego is telling me this. Spirit of truth, I have been believing this. I have been believing that. And these are my fears, these are my shames, these are my guilts. This is what I've been believing in my fear and in my guilt and shame. Out your ego. Renounce the role of guardian of your ego's thought system. Stop hiding it. Stop protecting your ego. Maybe it sounds something like this. Spirit of truth, I don't believe I deserve to be happy. I don't believe I deserve a loving relationship. I don't believe I deserve to be paid for service. I don't believe I deserve to have the healing of my body here because of my mistakes. I don't believe I deserve to be abundant, to be paid for serving because of my financial mistakes. I feel so ashamed of my mistakes. Renounce the role of guardian of your ego's thought system. Out your ego. And then listen. Listen for your higher mind teacher who will now begin to gently correct your false beliefs of guilt and shame and unworthiness and limits. Tell your higher mind teacher within, I'm ready. I'm willing to learn a better way and to change so that I can help other people to do the same. I'm ready. I'm willing. And I want you to hear your higher mind teacher say, we must not hide anything from each other. Renounce the role of the guardian of your fears and your shame thought system. Higher mind, I'm going to tell you everything that my ego is telling me so that you can gently correct it and lead me home. And breathe. How does it feel to be so unguarded in the presence of your loving teacher who loves you and who wants to heal you and lead you home? What does that feel like? Take a breath and bring your awareness back to the room and back to your body. So good job, everybody. Good job. Good job. Facing your fear of change, facing your fear of learning, facing your fear of change so that you can heal and grow and change and help others to do the same so that you can do what you're here to do. Good job. I thank you. The world thanks you. And may peace extend from my mind to yours. Don't forget to share this on your page and go to my YouTube page and like and subscribe. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you next time I see you.